now. And I'm just going to preface this by saying one of my hobbies is photography. And one time I went to the photo store, to the camera store, and I saw a T-shirt that had a camera on it, and it said, "I shoot people." And I thought that is so clever, right? I shoot people. Well, our next speaker shoots a lot of different things. Thankfully, he doesn't shoot people, as far as I can tell. Robert Leeds is our next keynote speaker. He has been a Toastmaster for almost 5 years. And he has a simple question for you today. How do you know if you hit your goal? How do you know if you hit your goal? As a leader in your club, as a leader in your life, how do you know if you've hit your goal? And to answer this, Robert is going to explore some of the lessons he's learned in the fine art of target shooting and how those lessons relate to life so that he can help you hit your SMART goals by focusing on goal formulation and measurement techniques, which I think is really the next step from learning from Freddie's messages. How do you take that into the next level? How do you craft goals and hit them? So please give a warm welcome to Robert Leeds, our next keynote speaker, with his speech, Shooting for Success. Shooting for Success, Robert Leeds.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Anthony, for the warm introduction. For everyone, my name is Robert Leeds, and I've been a Toastmaster for a couple of years now, about 4 years. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by sharing my screen with you, as a lot of what I have to say is going to be based off a PowerPoint presentation this afternoon, but please adjust your speaker view so I do show up in that nice little box, so you can keep an eye on me as well. We'll have a little bit of audience participation too, so that way we can have a little bit of fun. All right, so if I could just get a thumbs up from everybody, because on my end I can't totally see it, but does everyone see my title screen, Shooting for Success? Or do you still see me? All right. Zero feedback. Fantastic. Okay.
We see both of you, Robert. You're good to go.
I'm good to go. Perfect. You can see my PowerPoint screen. Thank you.
Yes.
So, what does success look like? Everyone has made a goal for themselves at least at one point in their life. So how do you know if you have successfully completed or even obtained that goal? Today, we will look at how to achieve success through the development of specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound goals, or better known through the acronym of SMART goals. We will do this by providing concrete examples through the fine art of target shooting and through the Toastmaster skill set of vocal variety, a subject that everyone here can relate to. Now, firstly, before we get into the journey of target shooting and vocal variety, let us explore the SMART acronym. Now, S is for specific. You want this to be simple or sensible or significant when defining this goal. Measurable, you want it to be meaningful and motivating, but you also want to, if you can, measure it by a unit, for example. Then achievable is you're wanting it to be agreed, or it's an attainable goal. It's not like, I want to go to Jupiter and skydive. Like, that's somewhat not attainable in this lifetime at this moment. Relevant, want it to be reasonable or realistic. It also might be resource-based. So going to Jupiter, do you have the financial capabilities of doing that? Probably not. And time-bound. So time-based, is there a time and a cost component to your goal? Or is it a timely manner? Can you do it within the next year or two? Or is this going to be a 60-year-long process? Okay, now we've introduced what a SMART goal is and defined, and some of the criteria that is required to build what a strong foundation is required for a SMART goal to be successful. But how do we put a SMART goal into practice? We need a personal story and maybe possibly a Toastmaster journey. So everyone in this room can relate to building a SMART goal to a specific example. So from a personal journey perspective, I'll provide you an example of how I've gone through target shooting while weaving in various aspects of every Toastmasters toolkit. I'm going to do this not only to illustrate how I progressed on becoming a better shooter or a more accurate shooter, but to provide everyone some context on how anyone can take any subject, even a subject they may not know anything about, like target shooting, and with a little guidance, we can establish successful SMART goals. During this story, I'll even stop and take some breaks with you, so we can figure out what lessons were learned and how to apply them to build that strong foundation for SMART goals, and as they relate to target shooting, but also and how they relate to Toastmasters, because that's why we're here. We are here to learn from a Toastmasters perspective. Now, let's have a little fun here. The lawyers made me do this. It may be a disturbing image to some, so be warned. I don't believe too many people will have an issue with this image, but the lawyer said I needed to do it. Now look at this sign. In this case, what do you think the shooter was trying to hit? Was it kind of a silly question maybe, but hopefully they were trying to hit the deer, but some shooters might just be trying to hit a sign. Now, why do you think that shooter was unable to hit the deer? Let's take 20 seconds. Now, I originally wanted to set up a poll for this. However, I ran out a little time with the tech team. So in your chat window, just maybe type, and let's have a little fun. So you can type number one for wrong equipment, number 2 for too far from the target, number 3 for wind affected the bullet, and number 4, shooter error. So target is moving. That's a good one, road sign. So let's see how many numbers. Let's just take a quick look at these numbers and see. We got a lot of 1s and 4s, and we got some 2s and a couple of 3s. There we go. All right. So that's perfect. So thank you very much for participating. Now, it's great responses, and I probably see the majority is choosing number 4 and number 2. The funny thing about this target is it was only 80 yards away from a corner that people drive around. So we know the shooter was only shooting 80 yards. And there was no wind. And I know for a fact that we're only dealing with one shooter, and they had the right equipment. So number 4, shooter error, I guess, is it. But the funny thing about this is the person shooting at this sign was me. I completely missed. I was unable to hit the deer. But let's take a look at why. When I was young, I was content on simply hitting the sign. Not exactly a great goal. Look at yourself right now and think back to when you established yourself as a Toastmaster. And what goals you had in place when you established yourself. It could have been to increase your vocal variety, having better body movement, getting the audience to laugh, or maybe, as some people here are, it's just the ability to speak in front of a crowd. Whatever it was, or it might still be, are you content with how you are measuring your success in achieving that goal? Another silly question, and we'll just raise hands, or we can use the chat box so we can say yes or no. Who has parents? We don't, as I said, we didn't really need to do a poll on this one, but we all have parents, of course. Now, looking back when you were young, did you idolize your father or your mother and believe, I mean, genuinely really believed that they were awesome and all-knowing? Then we grew up and we realized that some of them were absolutely full of it. When it comes to shooting or any sport or any activity for that matter, a father or a mother are typically the first ones to teach children. To no fault of their own, parents just do what they can. With my father, he taught me how to shoot. Heck, my dad taught me a lot of things. I thought my dad was an accurate shooter until I took a shooting course conducted by a sniper trainer. At the start of the weekend, the instructor told the group of us, by the end of the weekend, we would think 400 yards would be a nice, easy chip shot. So that's about 4 football fields. I said, ha ha. We all laughed in amazement, and we were doubtful yet hopeful that he was not blowing smoke up you know what. For those golfers in the crowd, you can certainly relate to that statement, because a chip shot is a relatively easy shot to at least get on the green. Or is it? So after a weekend of instruction and coaching and a whole lot of information just getting crammed in my head, my shoulder was sore after shooting 140 shots with a 300 Win Mag. However, 400 yards was now a chip shot. And the only person I could blame now for a missed shot or missing that deer on that road sign was myself. Now, up until this part of the story, we're asking, Rob, what is the point? The point I'm trying to make is that with the right instruction, the right coaching, and the right tools, anyone can achieve their goals. In my case, the goal was to become a better shooter. However, based on the SMART goal acronym we explored earlier, just becoming a better shooter is not exactly enough cause for celebration in achieving a goal. Becoming a better shooter lacks in almost every department of the SMART goal. So let's take a look at just becoming a better shooter. It's not specific. It's not measurable within units, but sort of measurable from a perception perspective. It's borderline on being achievable. It's somewhat relevant, and it is certainly not time-bound. As you can see, becoming a better shooter is not even close to meeting the expectations of really having a successful SMART goal. Let's look at the Toastmaster program and look within your own club. We have pathways for a program. We have members to provide us feedback. We have mentors to provide us mentorship and coaching when we need it. And we have tons of online resources. If you want to build a SMART goal for your own personal Toastmaster journey, do you think you have the necessary tools provided by Toastmasters and your club to establish one? Hold that thought, and we'll come back and talk about it a little bit later. Now, practice makes perfect. We've heard this phrase lots. Continuing with my target shooting story, over the year I kept practicing and increasing my ability to shoot accurately. I even started to load my own bullets to ensure I was getting as accurate as I could. I remember a year after I took the course, my neighbor took me to the shooting range and pulled out a loonie and put it on the 200-yard target and said, hit it. You have one chance. Everybody see that? There we go, 200 yards, cold bore, one shot. Now this loonie is an example of not only showing that practice makes perfect, but it shows that now I can make a shot under pressure. Just like Toastmasters and what Freddie said earlier, we can sit in our clubs and practice week after week, month after month, year after year. But until you step outside of your comfort zone and either compete in a competition or at a minimum, go visit another club to participate in a table topics or a prepared speech, you will have a hard time measuring your success. 4 years later, after taking my initial shooting course, I signed up for a long-range shooting course with the same instructor. My goal was to shoot 1,000 yards. This course would be a little bit different, as it was only a one-day course. It was one-on-one instruction, and we started the day at 800 yards. No warm-up. And we worked our way back to 1,100 yards. As well, we would be dealing with a nice Alberta 20-kilometer-hour crosswind for added fun. For those wondering, a kilometer is 1,093 yards. The fun thing about shooting at these distances is once you pull the trigger, assuming you are in the right position, your rifle scope will fall back onto the target that you're looking through, in this case being a 10-inch steel gong, and you will be able to see your bullet hit the gong and shatter. Then, about 1 second later, the sound of that bullet shattering will come back and you'll be able to hear it. It is quite a surreal experience. And with the added bonus of having an instant confirmation if you hit that target. Unlike Toastmaster competitions where apparently you don't get any confirmation on how you did other than your friends coming up to you saying you did a great job. Anyways, we'll save that topic for another day. At the end of the day of this long-range shooting course, I was consistently hitting a 10-inch gong shot after shot at 1,100 yards. I know what some of you are thinking. Why stop there? Yes, a part of me was wondering how far could I go? So I asked my instructor and he told me the next step is to shoot a mile. That is 1,760 yards or 1,609 meters. Not going to lie, that is one heck of a far shot. But there was not any time left in the day to attempt it, so I had to leave dreaming of one day making that shot. Fast forward to today. I'm still dreaming of shooting a mile, and a lot goes into properly executing a mile-long shot. You need to factor in wind, thermals, humidity, temperature. You can even factor in the rotation of the earth and how that plays a small factor on hitting your target at that distance due to the Coriolis effect. But we are here to learn, and what better way to start than to take some time right now and go through the process of building a successful SMART goal on how to shoot a mile. So, specific, 1 mile, a set distance and easily relatable when describing it to someone. It is sensible and a significant goal for any long-range shooter. Measurable, yes, 1 mile is easily measurable, 1,760 yards or 1,609 meters. And it's also a unit of measure that everyone can relate to. That distance can be measured by a rangefinder. Hitting a 10-inch steel plate is a measurement as well and is a standard target for this distance. You also know if you hit it or not, because if you do hit it, that sound will come back to you. You'll also see that bullet shatter. Is it achievable? I have the equipment, but I do need to load some more bullets as I sheepishly only have one hand load left. However, the 10-inch gong and the stand arrived at my door yesterday. I have shot 1,100 yards before, so what's tacking on another, 560 yards, really? Others have shot this distance with my caliber gun, so it is attainable. I just need to find a suitable location, and I think I found one last weekend northwest of Caroline along the pipeline. Is it relevant? A mile is a standard shot for long-range shooters, but not everybody can attain this shot. Timeliness. I would have liked to achieve it this year, but I'm constrained a bit by a new scope. The scope I want is around $2,800, and due to COVID-19, hardly any scopes are crossing the US-Canada border right now because everything's backlogged 3 to 4 months. So I'm probably going to have to wait for this goal for the spring or the summer. Can't wait too long though, because as you get older, you start to get the shakes. So I think I have a couple of years left for that, but who knows? Anywho, a SMART goal to shoot a mile. We've built it with a strong foundation, and now I can easily go shoot and measure my success in achieving this goal. Now, Toastmasters, where leaders are made. Let's rewind and get back to discussing your Toastmaster journey, which I promised earlier that I would return to. As I said earlier, we have pathways. We have members to provide us feedback. We have mentors and coaches. We have online resources. Our clubs have amazing talent and mentors. And if our club is struggling, then we can reach out to our area directors and we can utilize their Toastmaster toolkits and their network to help us create SMART goals if we're lacking on the club level. Talking about the Toastmaster toolkit, let's talk now about building a SMART goal around a speech trait that is evaluated often and is something that most Toastmasters are continually working on. That's right, I am talking about vocal variety. To ensure that everyone is on the same page, vocal variety is the way that you link your voice between you and your listeners. It is the primary medium for conveying your message in pretty much any speaking engagement. A speaker with great vocal variety will have the following traits. They'll be pleasant. They will have a natural voice. They'll command the room through their forceful voice, but also through ups and downs, through high and low pitches. They will be expressive. They will convey that emotion, that excitement, and they will be easily heard. They won't be like the soft whisper and you have to barely hear them. Now, let's take a look at how we can build a successful SMART goal on this topic that might be seemingly obscure and a little bit open to interpretation. For example, have you ever received feedback from your club members where one member says, "You have great vocal variety," while another one points out, "You can improve a little bit on it"? I know, I've received that feedback as well, and you don't really know where to go. Regardless, the point is that even with hard to define goals, building a SMART goal does not require that each level or each letter of the SMART acronym needs to be precisely defined. Most people are familiar with the show The Simpsons. As Homer Simpson once said, "I am so smart, SMRT." Now, so let's get started. Let's build a SMART goal right now on vocal variety so everyone has something to leave with. Specific. for vocal variety. You are honing in on a specific skill that is required to be a successful speaker. So we can all agree that being specific is certainly a trait. Measurable. Now this is a tricky one, since the primary feedback you will get is from your Toastmaster Club members or your evaluators in speeches and table topics. It is hard to measure since the measures are subjective to opinion. In this case, it is good to find a mentor or even the same evaluator to measure your progress over time, as they will know a baseline for you and they can determine if you're going to be increasing your vocal variety. Achievable. Still a little bit iffy on this. You and your audience will know if you've achieved your goal. Another subjective opinion, but your mentor or your evaluator will help you determine if you've improved on reaching or moving closer to your goal. Is it relevant? There's an elective project in Pathways under level 3, understanding vocal variety. And also in the past program in the Competent Communicator series, Project 6 was solely devoted to it. Toastmasters deems it relevant, and I am sure we can all agree that vocal variety is a relevant skill to have as a speaker. Lastly, time-bound and timeliness. How soon do you want to improve or master this skill? In the mentorship program, goals like this would be broken up into short-term or a long-term goal, being 3 and 6 months respectively. In terms of working on that goal in Toastmasters, you can do it every time you speak. Even the secretary can embellish the reading of the minutes on the last meeting to work on this skill. For parents out there, reading to your children is an excellent way to practice vocal variety. I do it all the time. Dr. Seuss is amazing. As you can see, a SMART goal can be easily created for an obscure and hard to define item like vocal variety. You must keep in mind that it's okay not to have concrete milestones to define your success. Success can be measured based on your progress over time. Look at yourself and compare what type of speaker you are now compared to when you entered Toastmasters. With that said, what would your Toastmaster progression look like if you had developed SMART goals when you joined Toastmasters? What will be your progression look like moving forward now that you can successfully develop SMART goals and measure your own success? Whether your goal is to shoot a 10-inch target or to develop your vocal variety, SMART goals will help you develop concrete and obtain goals that can be measured. This way, you will know when you've achieved your goal, and you will know when you've achieved it, and if you're able to measure your success, even for obscure or opinionated goals. Now get out there and shoot for success. Thank you very much. I'll hand it back to you, Mr. Toastmaster Anthony.